Hey, so in this video we're going to explore some low frequency tags, and specifically I want to compare the XCM, which is a small glass implant that just has a low frequency T5577 chip in it, to another similar implant, which is the Next, and this has an NTAG 216 NFC chip on one side and the same T5577 chip on the other. So I want to compare the performance of those with this nanoVNA that I have here. I also have a grab bag random crazy implant that I had lying around. It has some other high frequency stuff going on, but it also has a flexEM in the middle of it. So we're going to compare that. The reason that you see a flexEM like this, that's low frequency, this small puck in the center here, and you also see these small transponders that can also support low frequency, but you see there's like a huge scale difference between these. So it's a lot easier to manufacture a low frequency coil that requires a lot more turns. Like you can compare here. On the Next, there is a high frequency side right here, which has one layer of maybe, 12, 15 turns on a small ferrite to get the required inductance for this high frequency tag. So it'll be like, 50 picofarads capacitance, and that'll couple with like 2.6 microhenries of inductance. So that's the scale we're talking about for high frequency implants. But you can compare on this other side, this low frequency T5577 chip. This actually has 2 or 3 layers of turns, and it might have like 80 turns on it. So it doesn't seem like much of a size difference here, but it is a significant number of difference of turns to get that higher inductance that's required for low frequency implants. It'll also have a ferrite rod in the center that has a different permeability. So permeability of the iron really affects the inductance that you're going to get, so you can get that tuning for these resonant circuits. So it's pretty easy to wind this around a rod and just get a better ferrite rod. But you'll notice with something like this flexEM here, this is just copper. There is no ferrite in here. It is very difficult for us to get ferrite into a flex implant. I have some plans with maybe some ferrite sheeting, but I don't like that idea because the ferrite is very soft and brittle, and it could crack under flexing. So usually flex implants do not have any ferrite. So that doesn't help with their inductance at all. So to compensate, to get that really high inductance, we're talking like 30 millihenries. So 3,000 times more than the low or the high frequency implants. To get that without ferrite, you need like hundreds of turns. Like this is a puck that is maybe a millimeter thick, maybe like 0.8 millimeters thick, probably 3 or 4 layers tall of coil, and then you can see it's wrapped so many times to get that inductance. I actually have an XCM here. Unfortunately, I don't have one loose like the Next, but I do have one in a injector ready to go. I'm probably never going to install this because I already have a Next installed. So I figured I would do like a little unboxing here for you so you can get an idea of what the implant packaging is like. So this one is from a company called Dangerous Things. You can purchase these. They come with an assortment of other tools like sterile equipment so that your installer can do the install for you. But this is just the injector assembly, and this whole entire thing in the packaging was EO gas sterilized, so this is ready to go. The gas even penetrates into the interior of the injector, so there is nothing living inside of this unless you touch it with your hands and things like that. So because I'm handling it, I've already made it not sterile. So I might as well open it up. So here you can see the injector. assembly. When you're ready to install the implant, you can pop off the cap and expose the needle. Now, so I'm pretty sure that this is a 2 millimeter wide implant. So this is maybe like a 2.5 to 3 millimeter diameter needle. And if you wish, when you're doing the install, you can take out this safety cap before you actually get the injection done. You just have to be careful that you don't accidentally push the plunger before you're properly seated all the way into the flesh. So you'd get it like in here, get it all the way in, almost to the end here, and then you would press the injector until you hear a click. So here is it, as if I was installing. I can push this out, so you can see the implant is being exposed here. There is a plastic poker that's pushing it out, and when it was in your skin, it would insert into the pocket. So this is an XCM. So you can already see, compared to the next, there are a lot more turns on this antenna. It's probably because the ferrite isn't as high permeability, so they had to compensate by adding a lot more turns. But that's actually beneficial. More turns in a coil means that it will have much more flux getting through the coil and actually making it to the chip to power it, so you can get very good read range. So as a result, we're going to compare and see, does this next which is a much smaller coil with higher permeability, compare to the XCM, which has a much larger coil. So I have this vector network analyzer here. Let's just zoom in on it. Alright, so I am tuned right now to 125 kilohertz, and that is where this marker is right here. So let's try the XCM first. So I'll place this on the coil. So we're seeing a drop here. This is the amount of power that is being pulled from the vector network analyzer circuit and induced into the implant, and at what frequency that's occurring. So left and right, the x-axis is the frequency. So this was 125. Now we are at approximately 128.3 kilohertz. So that's pretty good. You want the frequency to be slightly higher, because when you put it into the skin, it'll introduce a little bit of parasitic capacitance, which will drag the peak down. So that is 128.3. So let's try the next. All right. So this smaller coil area is definitely making it harder for me to position it on the reader. We're also seeing that the tuning is a bit higher. Now that might not necessarily be bad. It depends on how much parasitic capacitance your body introduces to this circuit. So at this point, the next is resonating at 134.6 kilohertz. So it does not have as good tuning, and as you can see by the magnitude of this this droop, the XCM actually has better coupling. Now, that's all well and good. I think that I can say that the Next has slightly worse performance than the XCM, but it's so minor here because of the magnitude of the droop. Just for scale, let's try out this flexEM here. So this is going to get a much more intense read, and it's going to be right on point on the frequency. So you can see the flexEM has this draw that's about 10 times in amplitude, 10 times more, and it's right on the frequency. It is exactly 125 kilohertz. So that's going to mean that the maximum amount of power is going to be delivered to this implant. And for this one, I wouldn't worry too much about the frequency being slightly higher because the size of the implant means that there's going to be much less parasitic capacitance. Much more of the capacitance that's being introduced is actually part of the coil itself because the coil windings are right next to each other, which is creating a little bit of a capacitance. So this one is going to have a much higher draw. So you can try in situ. I actually don't have an XEM implanted. I just have this next here. So I can't compare in the body, but I suspect they're going to have very similar results. And if there is a difference, the XEM will have slightly better read range.